What's up? Got back with another episode of the North American Weed Tour podcast. Today, I'm joined by Steph Frohock, VP of Marketing Sales of the Flowery down in Florida. How are you doing today, Steph?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Man, I'm staying all right. I was just telling you off camera, just trying to stay warm out here. You know, I got the Pacific Northwest badge of fashion on with the flannel today, trying to keep it warm. But no, I'm doing all right. Exciting industry to be in every day of the week, man.
Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. So, I know there's some interesting things about your guys' company that we'll get into here in a second, but I'd love to kind of get into the origin of when the Flowery came to be and kind of the setup of you guys looking at cannabis being like, this is something we want to get into, and a little bit into the launch of the business.
Yeah, so to give a little background on the Florida market, in order to actually get the license, you had to be in the nursery business for 30 years. My family's been in the nursery business for 40 years, or over 40 years, and growing some sort of agriculture for over 100 years. So we know a little bit about growing. In Florida, there's only 22 licensees, and I think there's only about 15 of them that are actually in full operation. So quite a few years ago, we tried to apply for the license the first go around. I have three brothers, one of them who battled with PTSD and really understood the benefits of cannabis from a medical standpoint. So he was really the one that was on the forefront in our family that wanted to get the license back when it was just Charlotte's Web. And we applied for the license. We did not get it the first time because there's a lot of politics that also go into place. So unfortunately and sadly, that brother truly battled with, like I said, PTSD, and he passed away 4 years in. At that point, we have a tough family that you know what, fuck it, we're gonna make this happen for Matt. And so we went out and got a partner, and we actually sued the state of Florida and got the license in 2019. And since then, this has been such an experience, not only from a family perspective, but also from an education perspective, that I've never been anti-cannabis, but I also didn't understand the medical aspect of it. And I've been just blown away over the amount of stories that I've heard and witnessed, and people getting off of opiates. And even my husband, he's actually our medical director. We're as family can get. And I know we've had quite a few people talk crap about us on Reddit that we couldn't possibly be family, but like I said, my husband's our medical director. My brother runs operations. My niece manages the processing. So we can't be more family, to be honest. And really our motto with the Flowery is being part of the Flowery family. I truly believe a family goes beyond blood. I can't tell you how many aunts and uncles that I have that aren't actually my aunt or uncle. And we really believe that with all of our team members are really part of our family unit, and we feel the same way about our patients. Once you become part of the Flowery family, you're kind of stuck with us in the good times and bad. But it's just been an amazing experience the last few years. Like I said, both from an education standpoint and just a business standpoint as well.
Absolutely. First off, condolences to your brother. I mean, I know it was a couple years ago, but that is definitely rough. But that is some, I don't know what you want to call it, divine inspiration, right? It sounds like some divine inspiration for you guys to get where you're at. So I know there's a piece of him still with your guys' family helping push that along. And it's crazy how intertwined your guys' business is as a family. Like you said, you just mentioned, it's pretty your guys' blood runs pretty deep throughout the organization.
And we actually we're also the only certified veteran-owned MMTC in Florida. So it's definitely a passion of ours that we hire as many veterans as we possibly can. We give them a significant discount for shopping with us. So it's something that's at the core of who we are.
Man, that's awesome. And then something I know we were speaking yesterday, that you guys are actually the only current license holder who is the original family to obtain a license as well in the state of Florida?
Yes, I mean, it's a valuable piece of paper that we have. Actually, we don't even have a piece of paper. It's it's a valuable thing to have, and it's a lot of, if you're in the nursery business for that long, you're also probably up there in age as well. And you already have a business. So my brothers still run our nursery business. So for us, it was a passion and we really believed in it. It wasn't solely about money. Whereas other people, I understand it's an easy ticket of selling it. And just because you grow one plant doesn't necessarily mean you know how to grow cannabis as well. And it's a lot of work. It's not easy to, even if you get the license, there's a lot of obstacles that go into it as well. So I understand why a lot of them just sold their license, which is interesting to me of why the state made it so complicated to get it. But then on the very next day, you can go and sell it to another company. So to be honest, I think it's kind of silly from a state perspective, as well as they could have made more money if they sold the licenses themselves. But instead, they made it very challenging, but then allowed people to sell it. So it was just kind of weird to me.
That is very interesting. I don't want to get on here bashing anyone else, but there's some current news headlines out there. I know we just wrote about it, so it's on us. If anyone's out there interested on Respect My Region right now, there's a current news article that dropped within the last 48 hours that I think gives some insight as to why the system was set up that way. And it's pretty unfortunate when you see that, but it is crazy to make that level of stipulation, like that specific of stipulation, but then be like, oh, if you get it, you can just sell it for a profit the next day. That really makes no logical sense.
Well, and I have learned with a lot of the things with the state, I am a very inquisitive person. I want to understand why things work the way they do. I want to know why, the backstory. And I mean, just for our packaging alone, it's a pain in the butt. And there's basically, it has to be white packaging with nothing on it other than your logo, which pharmaceutical companies can put more branding on their packaging. We can't even put our website on our packaging. Like just all of these things but why? I've learned with the state, I need to stop asking why, because it doesn't necessarily make logical sense, but it's the way it is. And we just have to abide by the rules.
Absolutely. And so one of the unique things for you guys, I've talked to quite a bit of people in Florida. One of our writers resides out there. And so we've covered quite a bit out there, but a lot of our audience is on the West Coast. You guys are a vertically integrated market where, if I'm not mistaken, every product you sell out of delivery and dispensary has to be cultivated, manufactured by you guys, correct?
Correct. I mean, it's called seed to sale, and we, no exaggeration, from the little seedling, we track it from that all the way to the patient. And there are good reasons for that. It makes it challenging for us. I mean, we have to do the delivery, we have to do everything. We can't hire any third party for anything. We have to do everything, which sounds great, but it's actually, it adds a lot more complication to it than any other business. And honestly, it's a monopoly in that sense of like requiring us to do that. But I do understand where they're coming from, because it is medicine and you want to have that control. And the only way you can keep that control is if you have one company that you regulate and you follow up with. And like, we're very, very regulated, and the state comes and does audits and all sorts of things constantly. So having only one person, or one company, I do understand that perspective. And it's safer for the patients as well. We get everything lab tested. We actually did something that kind of upset some of the other companies, but we post all of our COAs on our website. And because we're proud of it, and whether it's amazing or not, we're very real people, and we like to be honest, and we like to, it is what it is kind of thing. Whereas other companies didn't want to show their results, maybe because they weren't as good, but because we did, now everyone else is kind of doing it because the patients are asking. But to us, we want our patients to be knowledgeable and to ask questions and to see that our quality is there.
Absolutely. And those COAs are definitely important for, the consumer sure the majority of consumers might not have any concern of what is on there, but it's still giving them that opportunity to find out a little bit more information about what they're consuming, and if they so choose to educate themselves, it's a great layer of transparency for a business, for you guys, but also education on the consumer or the patient front.
Absolutely. And us being, again, a medical state, I think it is important to see what's in there. As I said, I've learned so much about terpenes and what, depending on your ailment, what type of strain is actually good for a specific ailment. It is a science thing. It's not just an arbitrary thing. So it's pretty cool to be able to look up those things. I mean, in black market, you're never going to be able to see that or know what they're putting on top of those plants. Like everything that we do is natural, organic. We really are growing the best flower in the state of Florida.
And that's honestly, I've heard a couple people in that market I've spoke to have either said that or said that that's what the word on the street is, that you guys are really carving out a name known for quality flower in a state where the majority of flower is not quality. And I know you guys have some, obviously, just due to the geography and the weather out there, the humidity, right? Like, I know that there is a problem with mold, and bud rot is a common problem you see on Reddit for Florida. And I even see consumers accept it and say, if this only has a minimal amount, it's better than what else is out there. So what are some of the things you guys take in terms of making sure that humidity is not a problem cultivating?
Well, so we believe in 100% indoor, largely because it is Florida. And even though we have extensive background in growing other plants, that's also why we understand why indoor is so important, because of that factor. We are soon just about done with our new facility that is state of the art, amazing. I get chills every time I walk in there. It's just so spectacular. We will be the largest indoor facility in the state of Florida, because we truly believe the medicine is in the flower. So if you grow the best flower, then any other product that we produce is going to be amazing, because the core is amazing. And so it's something that is our core value, is high quality flower.
And that's, I mean, right, it makes sense with your guys' name, the Flowery. It makes sense that you guys put an emphasis on the flower. But I thought that was unique. I know we spoke briefly yesterday. I thought that was a unique approach, because it very much is, right? If you have good, whether it's the raw flower ends up being sold as flower, or ends up getting processed and manufactured into edibles, vape cartridges, whatever. The raw flower, you can't fake it. If it's good there, you can use it along the supply chain in a good manner, but you can't necessarily fake it, and so I think that's a great approach for you guys.
Well, and even when you press it, then higher quality flower is going to press better. The other fun fact of why we named it the Flowery was we are the Florida brand. And when Ponce de Leon founded Florida, or discovered Florida, he named it La Flowery, which means the Florida in Spanish.
Okay. I'm not up on my history of the state of Florida, but no, that definitely, I mean, it makes sense then that with your guys' model of approach, and then it makes sense geographic wise. I really like that. That brings a good angle to it. And it's nice that you guys have some substance to the branding. Again, I'm not throwing shade to anyone else, but a lot of things you look, I know there's some in the market that are branded really well, but some of them definitely really lean on that wellness sector, which I don't know how well will translate once you move from medical to adult use, recreational, whatever you want to call it. Because as someone who's came from the West Coast, where medical wasn't just around, but it was a very prominent and accessible for so long. Once people shifted to recreational, very few were able to hold on to that wellness type vibe, because they had such a large audience of people within the community. A lot of them had to take a more commercialized branding approach, which makes sense, right, for an adult use market.
Well, for us, branding and design is a passion of many of us within the organization. If you check out our Instagram, by far, we've done the best job, just from a fun, bringing a combination of the medicine, but also the fun aspect to it. I mean, even if or when we become recreational, we will always have a strong emphasis on the medical side as well, whether it's, well, who knows what, but we will always have our core part, because we really do believe in it.
Absolutely. And so for you guys right now, you guys have one brick and mortar location, correct? And then offer delivery to a wide area, or is there a couple brick and mortar?
Right now, we are actually only delivery,
Only
but we
delivery.
have
Okay.
day delivery 6 days a week in the southeast, and then we have like a delivery schedule for the rest of the state. But we open up our first dispensary that's going to be our flagship in January, which will be in Miami. And then within a couple months or less, we'll open up one up in North Orlando, another one in Clearwater, which is close to Tampa. And the rest of the year we'll open up a couple more. So we're going to be up and running and full steam ahead.
And will these stores kind of coincide with that new cultivation facility to help kind of feed that?
Exactly. So we couldn't actually sustain, we wouldn't have enough product to actually have a dispensary. Now that we have that new facility, we will be able to. I mean, to put it in perspective, our current facility is like a tenth of the size of our new facility. But like I said previously, there's a lot of stipulations once you get the license that you have to do. So we had to build our facility in essence in 30 days. So my brothers built it in 29 days, and we like to say a lot of blood, tears, sweat, and a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah, that's quite. So how large of a facility was built in 30 days?
We have 7 small rooms, which are basically shipping containers
Okay.
that are then built within another building. So it's pretty small.
Yeah, but that's still quite the task to do a build out in
No,
30 days.
it's incredible. Even with the new facility, my brother, even though he runs a nursery business, he's also an amazing builder as well, because it's just mind blowing the stuff that he gets done in the short time frame as well. I'm always very impressed.
Which I mean, which also has got to be difficult with the added layer of difficulties of being in COVID with just supply chain for all sorts of building materials.
That's been our biggest challenge, and he's just so not used to beating timelines I mean, you're stuck because we were waiting for air conditioning units that were stuck in the port of California. So we definitely have had delays because of COVID, just like everybody else.
Yeah. So what are if you don't mind me asking too, what are some of the strains that you guys are cultivating right now that seem to resonate with patients?
There's a wide variety. I mean, I think some of the ones that people want to have a comeback is straw nana and wedding cake, or some of the bigger ones. A lot of people prefer indicas in our market. It seems that's what we get the most requests. But one of our sativas that everyone loves is mimosa.
Okay.
We've had La Bamba. That one came back really high in THC. Right now we have Tropicana that's done well. I get a kick out of all of the names. It's quite funny, and the graphics that our amazing designer comes up with are just hilarious. And I think it also helps sell it because it's fun, you know. So again, going back to medical, but still there should be some fun in it too. At the end of the day, it is cannabis.
Absolutely, and that's what that's one of the biggest topics in legalizing cannabis is right, like making sure underage people don't get access to it, and that's what a lot of these laws around branding and colors and packaging is like. We don't want to make this appealing to kids, and while I wholeheartedly understand as a parent, especially understand that argument. I also like what you said is cannabis is, I mean, obviously in your guys' market, it's medical, so it's a little different, but cannabis in terms of where it is headed, it's a consumer packaged good, and consumer packaged goods have brands and have personalities. And while there might be certain things that are deemed inappropriate, I mean, you're exactly right. Having creative names and creative designs and packaging all leads to a consumer experience, right? And then also at a certain point, educating what's in this strain. If a certain strain is named after the flavors the terpenes represent, and you can take
Yeah.
that and put that in the imagery, right? It helps the consumer or the patient kind of connect the dots and make a choice based on preference, right?
One of the strains that I just still to this day just blows my mind. I'm actually a somm, so my wine background just kind of comes up sometimes, and it's just fascinating to me. Was our straw nana, quite honestly, smelled so much like strawberries and bananas. I couldn't believe how intense it was. That it literally smelled like strawberries and bananas, which I loved. But then my brother said in the grow it smelled like rotten bananas, so he wasn't a fan of it. But the after result was amazing. But growing it, he's like, oh, I hated walking into that room.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Yes, the terps definitely, definitely are like that.
Real.
So for you guys, Florida being a medical market, it tends to be most medical markets. We're not talking about Oklahoma right now, but most medical markets tend to have more regulation and restriction, or can have more regulation and restriction than some of these more mature adult use markets. And some of that poses challenges around marketing and sales. So what are some of the obstacles that you find in trying to market a brand around all these restrictions?
Well, the packaging is just it's painful how basically you can't put anything on it. Like I said, it's white with your logo on it in essence. So you can't bring it to life, just like you said, taking the strains and adding a visual to it to have the terpenes, like a better understanding of how it's going to make you feel or what the point of it is, or just enticing. So we don't get to do any of that. The other challenge that we have, and I think even other markets have this as well, is really getting our name out there has been a challenge because, and it's not so much the state, it's actually Google and Facebook or Instagram getting shut down or not being able to do advertising. You have to really get creative and do a lot of old school marketing that now it's just amazing to do digital marketing, but we're very limited on that. But we're rolling out a new website soon, and everything with us, we want the user experience to be flawless and as smooth as possible. So we have an amazing CTO that's building a custom website and just our ordering process, everything about it, especially being recreational. You have a whole level of having to have a card and you're only allowed so much per month and all of that. So we're really focusing on how to make it as easy as possible from a user standpoint, which will definitely set us apart as well.
Absolutely, and some of the things unique to Florida, like you guys aren't allowed like billboards and print advertising in that market, correct? Or are you?
In essence, no. Like we are, but not. Like you can't really say enough to be able to do it. And so, is it really worth it? It's it's challenging. So yes and no. Yes,
Okay.
but what you can actually put on there, and our name doesn't really say cannabis, so it's kind of a challenge.
And then, do you guys have any restrictions on like sales and discounts and promos?
Mm-mm.
No. Yeah, it's unique to see that from market to market. Like, I live in Washington. The Washington market, you can't a dispensary cannot sell any product for less than they paid for it. Whereas like in California, some of our clients, you can do like a buy one, get one for a penny or something like that. I don't know. All these states are.
I think it's good and bad because now that it's with Florida, that's how people chase after things and not focus on sometimes the quality. Instead, it's like whatever dispensary is having a deal that day. But I understand if people can't afford something, that's different as well. So I think it has its pros and cons.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as every market I've witnessed firsthand, obviously it starts out due to supply and demand, very high priced. As supply starts to stabilize, that will drive costs down. But then there's always, whether someone's going out of business or for regulatory purposes, tax purposes, dumps product out on the market for a low cost, and then that brings the consumer expectations of price
Mhm.
down. So how have you guys, or what have you seen in the market in terms of pricing and consumers? Do people seem to cater to lower price things? I mean, probably in sales volume, I'm sure.
We got a lot of flack when we first started. We had a flat price, and that did not do well. And so the great thing about us being a smaller company is we can make decisions quickly and not have that level of a normal corporation. So we actually adjusted our pricing to fit a little bit more of the demand of the market. I mean, there's
Absolutely.
definitely a price point where people are not willing to go above.
Yeah, and that seems to be common, and every market has a different ceiling. Obviously, it's kind of set by the market. How much is THC percentage held in regard by the patients down there?
Huge. And we are constantly trying to educate on the terpenes of like,
Yeah.
it's not, it really isn't like, in all honesty, it's not all about the THC. But I think a lot of people over the years, it's just what all they know. And that's what they think. I think some of it is a mental. There's so many factors of how the product affects you, and it could be the same product that you try one day, a week later, it affects you differently because of
Hmm.
what you ate, like what you didn't eat, what's going on in your life that day. But also, the terpenes have a huge impact on it, and that's one of the things that we are trying to educate our patients on. So
Yeah.
when
And
we
so,
do a new strain release, we educate them on what makes this product unique, what makes it special, what it would benefit for what type of ailment.
and what are some of the methods that you guys kind of communicate that education?
Email and text message.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a common thing, again, even over here on the West Coast in the most mature of markets, the THC percentage is just held. It's just the holy holy grail for the consumer. And anyone in the industry like feels like they're at this point probably just screaming at a wall. It doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
to
And
no
it's
avail.
and it's tough because even though we get it tested by a state approved lab, it's still a sample. So there is some flex on that of that specific sample might be higher or lower than maybe the rest. It depends what part of your order that you get also on it as well. So there is a little bit of a wiggle room I would, as a consumer, would look at.
No, absolutely, and that's good education for consumers to understand as well. It's an agricultural product, man. You're getting a couple gram samples getting tested out of potentially a whole room of plants,
It's
and
yeah, it's natural. Exactly.
absolutely. And so, what have you guys? What has your family kind of taken from coming from the nursery business and understanding plants? Like, how much of that experience mattered coming into cannabis, and how much of it had to be maybe thrown out a little bit because it's a new plant, or was there any of that?
I think a combination of both. I mean, there is some irrigation that we tried in the beginning that worked really well with their normal plants that seem like cutting edge, but then it needs so much management that if like one little, it was basically a drip system and these like pipes, and we've realized it's such a temperamental plant, even though there's a reason why it's called weed is because it grows very quickly, but they're girls, so they're a little sensitive. And so we've brought some of our agriculture background, but also quickly monitoring things and changing. And that's why the small facility will still stay our R&D. And so the last year is basically that's what we've been doing is research and development and getting prepared for this big facility and ready for all of these dispensaries that we're opening up. So going back to your question, I think we've brought some, but also adjusted as well.
Okay, okay. And then for this scale too, to have such a large facility and then have a large distribution outlet, you guys are also going to be entering into, I take it manufacturing as well.
Yeah, I mean, we are the ones that like I said, we're seed to sale, so we're doing it all.
Yeah. And so what are some of the potential challenges that you guys look at of going to scale and having being in a vertically integrated market?
I think the most important thing is making sure we have the right team, and we've just hired a new COO, and we're really setting the foundation. And like I said, this last year has been working everything out. And so we're preparing ourselves. And I think that's super important of building anything is having your foundation. So our foundation is there. So we're ready for the next step because we've taken a whole year of working all of these kinks out, making sure things work properly. So, I mean, the scary thing would be growing too fast, but because
Mm,
we set up this foundation, I'm not worried.
awesome. No, I think that's the foundation's the pillar of whether you're physically building something or building a team or building a business. You got to have that right. And so looks like going into 2022, you guys are positioned for some big growth with this large facility and these new distribution outlets. Where can people find you guys on the interweb?
So if you go to theflowery.co, so that's the flower with the Y at the end and .co, not .com. So
Okay.
theflowery.co.
Okay, awesome.
And then
Well,
on Instagram, we're the Flowery.
the Flowery, yeah. Thank you very much, Steph, for joining us. I really appreciate you sharing about the Flowery and then also just the Florida market in general. That's what this North American Weed Tour podcast is all about, is just learning about what cannabis looks like all across the country, and just, sharing in this excitement that so many people are getting to, come to this party, whether they're in the business or just a consumer or a patient.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for what you do.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to watching you guys grow, literally and figuratively, and excited to see this new cultivation facility. And then, like I said, I do have a rider on the ground that is a patient in Florida, and so I know she said she hasn't tried the product yet, but I'll make sure I'll get her in touch to make sure
Yeah,
she
get her in touch with me. I'll take care of her.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Steph. You have a great afternoon.
You too. Thank you so much.